Welcome, everybody, to the City of Farmers Branch City Council study session for Tuesday, January 20th. Our first item of business this afternoon in study session is public comments. I don't have anybody signed up to speak at this time, and I don't see anybody else here waiting to speak. So we will move right into item C1, which is review and discuss consent and regular agenda items. Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Nothing for me, Mayor.
Very good. Councilwoman Bennett?
Nothing for me, Mayor.
Councilwoman Villafranca?
Nothing, thank you.
All right. Item C2, receive a presentation on a proposed community-run event and 2026 special events. You don't have to run up to the podium.
I know we have a lot on the plate, so we're gonna get this rolling here. So Robert Diaz, Parks and Rec Director. I'm here this afternoon to kind of go over an item that was on a future agenda item by Councilwoman Tina Benton-Burton about a possible community run and then that effect on our special events for the this coming year. So just some background, that future agenda item was on October 21st council meeting. At that point, we were put in contact with a vendor that does runs around the DFW Metroplex AMPT. Staff then met with that vendor to get some run logistics, and then we also talked with the fire department and police department on best practices in regards to this type of event. And then staff is going to review the kind of event logistics and how it's also going to impact all the other events that we have. So just a little bit about specifically on the run. So the vendor that does these events that I spoke with only does these events basically one a month. So these dates lock in really fast. So the date that they had available was October 10th. So we're penciled in for that date if this is something the council would want to move forward. A race would typically begin about 8, just to give you some details specifically on a race. Typically a race would start about 8 o'clock. This event would be a certified course by USTAF, which is U.S. Track and Field Federation. Typically any race that you have, half marathon, most 5Ks that have a timed element are typically going to be certified. And so we would want the course certified so that way you have your runners that really are there for the time and not just to enjoy it, have the actual time and they can utilize it for whatever they need down the road. And it's good to just have a certified course. I would even recommend if we go forward, maybe have a couple of courses certified in case we have other options down the road. Then we're looking at a proposed location in and around the historical park where the race would begin and end around the historical park. I think one of the things that was brought up was having some type of festival atmosphere. So what we're proposing is to try to have that at the historical park. That's become our place for all of our events. And so having a race that's in and around those neighborhoods that starts and ends at the park, I think would be really good for the community. Another item would be if we wanted to, if we did it early in October, we'd be looking at kind of a fall festival type atmosphere, almost within the race environment would be very festive. And then the plan would be for the race would then lead into more activities over the course of the day and into the evening. So then having it at the historical park, we would use the same event logistics that we do for all our other events, parking off of Ford Road and those kind of items that we would typically have at all of our events. So when we discussed the race itself with the vendor, their fee is right at $22,500, and then there's miscellaneous race expenses that typically would be covered by the city as well that the race manager would oversee. Those would be like just general supplies, the racing bibs, the professional timer. Usually they subcontract with a vendor that comes out and sets up the arches and the timing and the chips and all that kind of stuff. And then we have the medals, and then of course the actual day of the race, the vendor would be out there to coordinate all the race activities. In addition to that, we'd also look at other site expenses like that the other city would incur would be additional barricades, cones, signboards, portalets, those kind of things. Those would be other costs on our end. And typically I know we have quite a few barricades and cones that we have in our system currently that Public Works and Parks has, but typically you don't want to, for this type of event, because you're using so much, you wouldn't want to take all those out of service in case we have issues that we need it. So we would typically rent all that equipment. We also looked at marketing and then also potential overtime. So if you add up all those expenses, you're looking at about $67,000 for this race. And then based on some potential revenues, talking with the vendor, we'd be looking at about 500 racers. Typical average per participant is $45 per participant, and you're looking at potential revenue of $22,500. So taking the revenues minus expenses, you're looking at about $45,000. And I will put a little asterisk with this total, because this is really for transparency, giving you all what the cost is going to be. We would anticipate, even from talking to the race vendor, you typically are then looking at sponsors for races. So that would then offset that 45, and we would bring that number down as close as we can to where I don't think we could get it to zero, but we could definitely put we could definitely reduce that greatly. And then just to kind of look at some routes, and really I know this is difficult to see, but I got on our map online to where it could at least give us a general idea of what a 5K distance would look like, because it measures it out for you. I was able to I kind of redid this one so you could see it a little bit better. And this route is just me looking at trying to get 5K in. Of course, your starting point is at the park along Ford, go down Farmers Branch. We would be looking at going up. And what we typically do on a major road like that, you would typically, of course, I work with Public Works and everything, but what I've seen is that southbound lane, because you've got 3 lanes, you take 1 lane and either barricade or cone it off. And then what we would also implement from talking with public safety would be, as the last racers are finishing, we would come up behind them, PD would, to reopen everything that we're closing. So as you anticipate, and then we also would be looking at a time cap. So we tell the runners when they sign up, we're at a 2-hour time cap. So by 10 o'clock, if you're still out on the route, then you need to go find a sidewalk or something like that. And we would be out and tell people, as we're opening traffic back up, you need to, if there's still people out on the route. And if you can see, as we go around like the 4 corners and up Valley View, I can anticipate, as we get into the park area and into the back and north neighborhoods of the historical park, at that point, you're off the major thoroughfares typically. And so as we're opening everything back up, then it would be, pretty conducive to, you're almost back in a park setting, and you might even be in the park setting at that point, or you're just walking through the neighborhood. So now your fast runners typically are going to get done in the course, the really fast ones between 20 and 30 minutes. So it's really mainly your walkers you're concerned with, the strollers, the moms that are just doing. And a 1 mile fun run, we'd do a little bit different route for that. I'm not sure how we would lay that one out, but that one would be a little bit different. And we would just have to, get a good measurement in there. Could be something like it's an out and back kind of thing, or we kind of do a circle where we just get back to the park and finish everybody back. You typically want everybody coming back to where you started. That's the big key in all this. In addition to the layout of the run and some of the logistics of the run, what I wanted to point out in addition to that would be how this event fits in with all the other events that Parks and Rec does over the course of the year. And so I was able to put all those events in there for you. And what I wanted to point out is that we have quite a few events already in October, even if you took the run out. We've got Craft Fair, Haunts and Houses, Branch Arts Live, Day of the Dead, and of course Halloween in the Park. And that's in addition to, from talking to public safety, we've got National Night Out early on. We've got the, I know fire department does their public education push during October. And of course, we assist with some of the trunk or treats at all of the schools. So there's a lot happening in October. So what we would propose would be to create this one-day festival of event with the run, and we would take the event, the Haunts and Houses event, and then the Halloween in the Park event, and utilize that funding to create one long event with the run. So we'd have kind of basically a fall festival is what we'd be looking at. That's kind of what we were proposing. It would help us because, all these events it takes all of us to make these happen. So you're looking at, for even if you took out the run for all the ones that we have at the park, we're utilizing public safety, we're utilizing our own staff. So this would kind of consolidate all that, and where we'd have one big event from basically morning till night, which I think would be great. I know we don't, with Bluegrass not around anymore, we really don't have an all-day festival. Everything we do typically is short and condensed, which is great. So this would kind of, it's not a 2-day event, but it's remnant of that, where we could have activities going on from the run all the way to the end of the day. So that's kind of what we would be looking at, but of course we need feedback from all of y'all before we move this forward. So with that, I'll turn it over. If you have any
Thank you,
questions.
Robert. Thank you. This is Councilwoman Bennett's item, so I'll let her start on this, but I will say October 10th, that is Texas OU Day, for those who care. Anyway, go ahead, Councilwoman.
So when Angela or Amp said the 500 racers, did she indicate that that was residents or was that visitors?
Well, because this race would be promoted outside the city, you're looking at, it'd be the whole Metroplex. However, we would utilize her assistance with the marketing element, so you're pulling in racers from outside the city.
Okay. And she does the Toyota in Irving, and that exceeds 1,000 when she pulls them in. So, which is why I asked why we can't include B Street as part of the route. I mean, if we're going to bring people in, and this is a destination moment, why are we not putting them in a destination moment to see what we have? And I don't think that they should cross the train tracks, because that's going to really mess their timing up.
Yeah.
And they get really intense about that. But they could come down B Street or just next to Cox and stay and then cut through, back down through the gardens. So those were my, and vendors, and if you can ask her for the vendor list, I know that she will gladly share that with you and offset the costs with that. I know when we were vendors, we always had the premium at the finish line, and it was $500 to $750 that we paid to do that and participate. So, and at Toyota, she easily covers that $45,000. Yeah.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
I think it's a great idea. I would love to see that happen here in the city, and how Councilwoman Tina's saying that maybe including B Street,
Okay.
we have some more businesses down there that
Okay.
people that don't live in our area can see and hopefully come by. As far as the events, the haunted houses, that's the one that it's less scary for kids, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. I think that'd be a good idea to kind of do like a whole fall festival as well. Maybe, have a little friendlier during the beginning, and then the Halloween in the park for those that, do enjoy more of a scare. Do we really think it's a good idea to leave Halloween in the park on Halloween? I know a lot of people, the point of Halloween is to go trick-or-treating, so that's kind of why I'm leaning more towards doing a full-day event.
Yes, we compete with so much when you're doing it on Halloween, but also when you look at just some of the funding we've got, we could possibly reallocate some of that funding for Halloween for this Fall Fest event, and still do elements of Halloween, but just in a more, where, like you said, not so scary way, where it becomes just more of a fall fest. I know we talked about possibly, having elements for adults and for the kids out the whole day. But if kids want to wear the costumes and things like that they can do that as well. So
Right.
kind of cater to all the different needs. It's kind of like a kickoff to Halloween to a certain extent.
And then I know you guys spent a lot of time getting Halloween in the park together. Moving it up to the beginning of the month, is the staff okay setting that up?
Well, if we can get this kind of soon, kind of not, getting dates and stuff, we can, correct, we can make the changes, and I think they're all good changes. So, and then also locking in the date on the run as well, I think kind of we're at good timing on it.
Okay, perfect. And yeah, hopefully we can get some of those vendors to offset that cost and
Correct.
I'd be for it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilman Reed?
Yeah, I love the idea of having it be an all-day event, so if someone can't make something in the morning, they can come later in the day and vice versa, and it'll appeal to such a broader crowd. I want to know, have you run that route personally, just to confirm the distance, or?
I have not, but
Okay.
I have run before 5Ks, and I will tell you that I've talked to, actually, he's going to be mad that I said something, but I talked to Jay Siegel at PD, and he's former marathoner and 5K, and we talked through it, and I think that route would be great. You're talking October 10th, early October, weather should be great.
Right.
And if you're going up, the country lane, basically a Farmers Branch lane, and through those areas, it'll be, I think it'll be a really good route. And that's part of what kind of makes a race go, is once you kind of establish a good route like that, people come back. They come back year after year when they know it's going to be a good race like that. I've run Cowtown before. When you're running through downtown Fort Worth, you can't beat that. That's you can't do that any other time. So making that part of the race it's really great.
And I agree, and I love the idea of including B Street, getting it in there. Our residents tend to be so much fun. I can see the streets lined by the people that live in those residential areas. So it'll be fun for so many people. I'm psyched about it. I'm all for it.
Councilwoman Villafranca?
You think of everything. You're so amazing. Thank you so
trying.
much. I have a couple of thoughts. I did a 5K actually in September for Homeboy Industries in Los Angeles. We paid $70 for the privilege of doing the 5K. I do wish there were a way for us to make it either, I wouldn't want to lose money on it necessarily. So I don't know if that's something we can look at through sponsors. I'll forward the website address to the city manager and deputy. Maybe through sponsorships, and I know I've done some 5Ks where the sponsors are on the back of the shirt, and you make
Right.
money that way. I don't know if we'll be able to do a vendor booths where people would pay. And I love the idea that it'll be on October the 10th. The weather's still nice. I love that you're going to that you want to combine the three events. I think it's perfect. And since it really is still a Halloween kind of thing, what about you can wear your costume for when you do the 5K?
Great. Yeah, exactly. I think that was part of the intent. Yes.
Great. And I am a little bit hesitant about making B Street part of the area where you walk/run, only because, those are business owners that would probably rather have business in there rather than have everything blocked off because there's a 5K running through there. And also, we want to focus on the fall festival that's at the historical park.
And I would just say that the way we're kind of moving, how it was reopening, and that less impact, and I think I don't see how it wouldn't have that much impact on those businesses. I don't think, because we're reopening everything on a pretty, you're talking a couple hours, but you're exactly right. We need to look through that and look at the route and see what makes the most sense, and also kind of just from a race standpoint, what makes the most sense as well. But we'll look at some options there.
I'm certain the vendor will probably have an
Correct.
idea that they do this every day, all day
Right.
long. Great. Thank you so much. This is so great. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilman Neal?
Yes, thank you. I'm also in favor of combining it along with the rest of the council here, so I'd be in favor of that. I'd also like us to continue to look into trying to at least break even on it so it doesn't cost the city too much cost on that. And yeah, following up with maybe some sponsorships or other mechanisms to bring in some revenue for that. And I would just encourage you, if you haven't already, talked to the businesses there along B Street to get a feedback from them about how they feel about having this run go by them. So.
We've talked internally about getting economic development to help us with that as well, and possibly the chamber to kind of help with sponsors and things like that. So
That's great. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert, it sounds like you got direction on combining this and,
Yes, sir.
Trying to get as close to break even as possible. So we'll let you go with that.
all right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Next up is item C3, provide an update on an agreement with Samsara for the asset tracking and maintenance of city assets after the first year of the 5-year contract.
Good afternoon, Kevin Reinhardt, Fleet Operations Manager. Appreciate your time. So Samsara is our fleet management vehicle tracking software. In October of 2025, we entered a 5-year agreement with Samsara, and it was requested to have a follow-up after the first year. So the first year was, they gave us a $35,000 subsidy to get all the equipment and installed so that we could start tracking our fleet and start gathering some data. Years 2 through 5 will be $65,000 per year. So with Samsara, we're tracking around 330 assets, which averages to about $15 per vehicle per month. So this is kind of how we're using the system. Fleet takes a big part of this. We use the system to gather data for the vehicles. We're gathering mileage, engine hours, check engine light status, tire pressure on some vehicles, oil pressure, coolant temperatures, all the things that kind of make vehicles run and operate. The system has the ability to alert us if there's any issues that we need to address proactively. Police, fire, public works, community services all use the system to track their vehicle locations, run reports on where their staff has been, if there's a question of whether or not a city vehicle's been down a road or not. Fire department's using it to track the temperatures inside the back of their ambulances for their patient compartment to make sure the ambulance is ready to go at a moment's notice. There's been a few instances where check engine lights have come on the vehicles. I get those notifications. We can make a determination to whether or not we need to bring that vehicle in for service. If it's critical, there's been a couple times where I feel we've saved the engine from overheating and causing major repairs. So the next 3 or 4 years, we've got some big plans for the system. The first year was kind of a baseline, getting data to see where we're at. The next step is how do we use this data to improve our fleet and our operations citywide. So our plan is to use this data to reduce our fuel idle costs throughout the fleet, improve our driver safety, and then if we, so also monitoring it for fleet utilization, which is a tool that we can use to see how much and when we're using certain vehicles, and it can drive our decision-making process on replacements. So, and with that, I've got time for questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This was requested by Councilman Neal, so Councilman Neal.
Yeah, thank you. Kind of like this program, this idea to keep an eye on things. I do have some questions around the costs, though.
Sure.
I know there was a discussion about the increase in costs from year 1 into years 2 through 5. Can you just maybe help me understand why there's an additional cost 2 through 5? I think it was each asset for the first year is about $175 or so for the year. The years after, that's about $200, $195, something.
Yeah, so the cost for the system is $65,000 a year. They gave us a $35,000 subsidy for the first year to help us stay within our budget for that first year, and also to get us all of the equipment up front so that we can start gathering that data.
Okay, and so it's still on target with around 330 assets or
Correct.
so? Okay, and as we engage or bring on additional assets, I guess that could potentially increase the costs as we go along?
It would,
or do we-
depending on if we have any spare ones. We're constantly taking things out of service, putting things in service.
Right, so
there's-
if a vehicle were to retire, could you take the equipment off of the retiring vehicle? Put
Absolutely.
it into the replacement vehicle? Okay,
Yes.
great. Yeah, that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Gonzalez?
I do like the idea that you're able to keep track of all the vehicles and kind of just stay on top of anything that needs to be done. So I like this thing.
Appreciate it.
Councilman Bennett?
I love it. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Councilman Reed?
Hi, I'm sorry for a left field question here. Have you been able to gauge, because you had just mentioned that you were able to take assets out of service because you noticed a critical issue, whether it's overheating or what have you. Have you been able to gauge any savings that we've been able to attain due to, better fuel consumption, less hours, catching issues before they become more severe? And if you don't have the numbers at your fingertips, that's fine. I apologize for this. It's
Yeah.
just a off the top of my head question.
So as far as a solid number, nothing concrete. It's kind of one of those, you don't know what we're going to have if you don't fix it. So like in the instance of the vehicle that was overheating, we potentially saved a $7,000, $8,000 engine by replacing the water pump for $200 or $300. So that's the kind of things that we're able to do in a preventive maintenance side of things instead of a reactive maintenance. So if that vehicle breaks down on the side of the road, you can factor about a 10 to 100% increase in costs. So
Perfect. That's the kind of information I was looking for. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Councilwoman Villafranca?
Thank you so much. How long have we been using this system?
We went live with it in November of 2025, so we're a little bit over a year with it. We had to ramp up to get the equipment installed. So we've been probably about 6 months worth of really good data.
In the scope of things, in my mind, it seems like a lot of money. I mean, is there a reason why the vehicle operators are not able to report when they see an engine light go on, or report when the tire's low, or when there's no gas, or anything else?
Yeah, they are, but it's better for us as a department to be proactive with things like that instead of waiting for a driver to report something. Well, there's times when the vehicle could be sitting overnight and the battery goes dead, and they go to try to use it, but the battery's dead. I can get alerts on those battery voltages before they even get to the vehicle and can have that fixed ahead of time. So it's a matter of if we want to wait for the problems to happen and the reports to come in, or if we want to be proactive and be on top of things so the vehicles can be ready when they're needed.
So you think that it's worth spending $65,000 then?
I do.
Okay,
yeah.
because I was thinking air tags, like I was thinking,
It's
Green
much,
Acres
much
here.
more than just tracking locations.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else?
Yeah, I was just going to add, as I'm thinking forward about utilization of this, I think it might help all of us when we generally have this retirement program of vehicles of 10 years or 100,000 miles. And I would suspect that when that time comes, we could refer to this software, this equipment, to be able to tell us during the life of that vehicle it's had this problem or that problem. Or if there's no problems, maybe we can extend the life and keep that asset for a little bit longer. So that's kind of an idea that I was thinking about, how this software would help us maybe in some cost savings down the road by extending the life of an asset that hasn't had many problems.
Yeah, and you may find that you have assets that you find that you need to replace sooner because you have had a lot of problems. So, yeah, it goes kind of both ways, but that's the intent.
Anything else? Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Next up is item C4, provide an update on the city's credit card fees and the cost of accepting electronic payments.
Perfect. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Jay Patel. I'm the Finance Director for the city, and today I'll be presenting an update on our expenditures related to credit card fees. This item was requested by Councilmember David Reed, and throughout the course of this presentation, I'll get into some of the various components that go into the fee itself, some of the trends that we've experienced in recent years, as well as staff's recommendations to you all going forward. A brief background on credit card fees and electronic payments in general. Electronic payments are now the primary method of payment for most city services currently. Credit card usage itself has increased across utilities, courts, permits, recreation, parks and recreation, and processing fees have risen materially over the past in recent years, which I'll get into in the next couple slides. So what goes into the fee? And first and foremost, there's the contractual element of the fee, which is both fixed and variable, and they kind of compound on top of each other. And that's built into the negotiated contract, which we have with our current processor, Global Payments. Aside from that, in addition to those contractual fees, are additional background fees, which drive our effective rate to nearly 8%. These most notably include the gateway to interchange fee, which are implemented through card networks or issuing banks and are automatically passed through to the city. In addition, all remote transactions such as auto pay, online payments, they carry an extra fee associated due to their no physical card present status. There's additional risk due to being a remote type of transaction. So there's a slight increase in fee in terms of those transactions themselves. In addition, any chargeback, refund, anything that really requires requires some manual intervention, poses a fee of upwards of $15 per transaction, which adds to this fee that we're absorbing quite significantly as a city. Just to provide you all with a visual depiction on how these fees have trended year over year. FY23, we were paying around $450,000 in credit card fees. This increased approximately 50% in FY24, moved to around $650,000. And then we saw a drastic difference from 24 to 25, nearly 100% increase. I want to say calendar year 24 was the highest year on record for Americans paying credit card fees. And that trend is expected to continue just with all of these background fees that are being applied through credit card companies, banks, et cetera. And that FY26 projection is just me extrapolating 3 months worth of data throughout the rest of the fiscal year to provide you with the projection where I believe we'll end up in FY26. So brief background, some of the actions that council has taken thus far. In September of 2024, council passed ordinance 3889, which established a 2.5% convenience fee to all utility billing transactions paying with a credit card. That had an effective rate of January 1st of 2025, and we had projected an additional $200,000 in revenue for that fiscal year. What we achieved was $91,000, and I'll get into some of the reasons why our actual revenues were lower than what we had projected. Simply put, our system at this time cannot apply convenience fees to auto pay customers, which leaves many transactions going fee free. That's nearly 30% of our transactions that occur throughout the city in terms of electronic payments. Therefore, a significant portion of council's intent to charge utility billing related credit card fees is not taking place currently. And this brings me to my proposed solution to you all, because as your finance director, one of my primary responsibilities is to ensure that the intent of council is taking place. Currently, as my alternative, I'm proposing that instead of applying the fees through our software system, we apply them through our payment processor, which would be Global Payments. The one caveat is that they have a set 3.5% fee that must be applied to all credit card transactions. So we can capture all those auto pay payments, online payments, in-person payments, but that 3.5% is set by Global Payments themselves. What I'm proposing, and to keep us in line with the intent of council or the original intent of council, is that we would apply that 3.5% fee upon each transaction, but my staff would go in and manually apply a 1% rebate to all of those card transactions prior to their next bill going out. That requires a little bit of additional effort, but it is my goal to make sure that the intent of council and that 2.5% is met, keeping us in line with ordinance 3889, which was passed in September of 2024. And at this time, I welcome any discussions, questions, and seek further direction, essentially.
Thank you very much, Jay.
Absolutely.
This was requested by Councilman Reed, so Councilman?
Okay. If we put your plan into, the proposed plan into effect, how would, if you applied that to the extrapolated 2026 expenses, do you have an idea of how much more we would capture?
We capture approximately 30% more than what we're recovering right now. Approximately 30% of our payments, credit card payments, are through auto pay, which are not being captured at the moment. So I'm projecting that we would increase from my latest projections around 200,000. I would go up to around 250,000 or so.
Okay, of the 1.8 that we're currently being charged.
That's correct. And the part that I'm mainly focused on is the water wastewater component of the fee itself, applying mostly to our utility customers.
Okay, understood. And I know that I saw that one of the fees was a refund or what have
Chargeback.
you. Is there a cost for the rebate?
For the
You said
There
that
is-
there would
there-
be a 1%, calculate a 1% rebate. Is there a cost to the city to process that?
There would not be, no. That would be applied directly to the customer's utility account and would essentially, it would not go through the processor itself. So it wouldn't be calculated as a refund or any of those $15 per transaction
Okay.
charges.
All right. And I know when we passed this last year, the 2.5%, I know for me, the assumption, I looked at it as the average cost for a card was between like 2 and 3.5 or something like that. So I think we came, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think we came to the 2.5 fee because it was midpoint, primarily, to throw, MasterCard might use that, that's their fee, not realizing that there were so many other extraneous fees involved. So I'd love to get my fellow council members' input on whether we should increase it to the 3.5%, get rid of the manual processing aspect, because if you do have a manual process, anytime you enter anything manual, that's when things can snafu on you. So it's just a thought. And I'd love to hear what other folks have to say.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gonzalez.
Well, first of all, I didn't know that there was so many extra fees even on refunds. That's just wow that you guys have to do all that. I am kind of leaning towards just bumping it up to 3.5 because he's right. Not that your team can't handle it, but I am just worried that, we're not going to make everybody angry if just something slips and they don't get their 1% back, I guess in a way credited correct on their next bill. Yeah, I would hate for that to fall on you guys and kind of get that feedback from the residents if they're upset about that. But I mean, that's just possibly.
Councilman Reed asked one of the questions that I had, but I want to reiterate it. So you're saying that if they did the manual 1% refund, that there would be no staff expense in that? Man
No,
hours?
no, there would be approximately 4 hours per billing cycle that we would have to associate towards this change. We ran it through our test system to just essentially give us a preview of what we'd be taking on going forward. So you're looking at around 12 to 15 hours per month in additional staff time.
I'm going to agree with my colleagues that I think it's easier just to raise it.
Councilwoman Villafranca?
Thanks so much for doing this research. I'm hesitant to raise it at this time, considering that we've just raised everybody's water and sewer cap. I think that even if it were a couple of dollars, I think that people would really feel the difference. What is the amount of money that we would actually be taking in based on your numbers?
So you're looking at additional approximately around 40 to 50,000
A month, a year?
a year annually.
I don't think that that is substantial. I really think that we've just raised the water bill and we've just raised the sewer cap. And I think raising 3.5% would really be a lot, in my opinion. And I don't think $40,000 is really, in the scope of things, a lot of money. Thank you.
Councilman Neal?
I just want to clarify a couple of things that I think I heard, and it seemed though from 2024 to 2025, the fees doubled, or just about doubled, and we're projecting an additional 3 months for 2026 to approach $1.8 million
That's correct.
worth of fees.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and you just reconfirming, you also mentioned that the auto pay is about 30% of the payments that come in. So that means 70% are coming in with the credit card or paying cash or a check?
No, of those credit card payments, 30% of those are
Of
auto
all
pay.
the credit card, okay,
correct.
30%. Okay, and so ultimately, what is the overall sort of net cost to a resident in general? Is it an additional 1%, 1.5%? How, if we were to implement your
It'd be additional
suggestion?
1%.
An additional 1%, okay. Yeah, I'm not so sure that I'm all that in favor of it. I know a little more than a year ago, we adjusted all the fees for permits and all kinds of fees. You know, we just introduced and increased the water fee and sewer fee. Of course, there's always that landfill fee that's out there. It just seems like we continue to keep pressing our residents for more and more fees. And I don't know for the $30,000 or $40,000 if it's really worth that amount. I'm sure we should be able to find, you know, the extra 40,000 K somewhere in our budget to cover that. So it's kind of how I feel about it. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
If, one of the ways I pay my bills is, you know, auto check through
Absolutely.
my checking account. There's no cost to us for that, correct?
There's not, no.
Okay, so there's no cost, there would be no additional fee to residents that utilize.
From a resident standpoint, yes, there's no additional cost. I want to say that from a city standpoint, there's a nominal fee associated with those, the processing of ACHs or e-checks, essentially, but it's nowhere near what we absorb for credit cards.
Okay, so there are other methods that folks can use
Absolutely.
to not only, if we were to increase it, not to be burdened by that, but to not be burdened by any fee at all.
That's correct. That's
Okay,
correct.
Just want to
Yeah.
make sure.
E-check, ACH, mail in a check, cash payments. There's an array of alternative options
Okay,
available.
all right, just want to make sure. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I think this is really interesting. I'm going to stay neutral on this subject, and I almost recuse myself because being an owner in a credit card company, I'm not sure the proper for me to say, but 3.5% is not unusual. So I don't really have a problem with that. You know, the world is getting more expensive, as we well know. And so these are real costs to the city. Perhaps what we can do is in upcoming water bills or branch bulletin or whatnot, tell people that, hey, there's no additional charge for e-check, essentially.
Absolutely.
And I'm not sure why people would put their bill on a credit card necessarily and say just that desperate to rack up miles or rebates or some of the other benefits that are available. But that's their business. But the business of running the city dictates that we should be covering our cost of processing, because that's a very real number. But I'll let my fellow councilman go.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if it's desperation for an auto pay, it's just convenience. That way you know for certain you're not missing a payment. But I wanted to ask, do we have a feel for what other cities are doing in similar circumstances?
We do, and those fees range from approximately 2.5% to 3.5%, right in line with where our discussions are lining out, and that's neighboring cities that I surveyed essentially, just across our region in particular. But they all have that. They're all within that range.
Okay, so we wouldn't be an outlier.
No.
We'd be right there.
That's correct.
With the majority. All right, great, thank you.
Okay. I'm not, I'm not sure I know that we have total direction one way or the other.
We do.
To go to 3.5?
But I agree with you. It needs to be we need to educate them and to what they can do that will not incur any further expenses. Matter of fact, it can save them money.
We can do that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think that would be a big plus, and it's cheaper for everybody.
Yeah, because it's a convenience fee. and
It is.
And convenience has cost.
So with that being said, can we do that education now before jacking them with another percentage point, just to see if it helps with our education?
That's a question to you.
It's up to the council, really. It would be how long do we want to go and see the effectiveness of it? It could be months, a year. What's the appropriate time frame to go forward with that one as well? Usually there's a small percentage in there, but the general theme being just the cost. That 1.8 million is a staggering one because those fees are lost on revenues to the city, which means projects and investments in infrastructure are further limited because, and that's the big numbers, the 1.8 million is what can we do to reduce that liability to the city. The will of the council, if we want to do education, we can do both. We can do one at a time. It really depends on what you all would like to do.
I really think it would be responsible for us to launch maybe a couple months' worth of education first before you implement a fee, saying, hey, this is just like everything else, cost of the world's getting more expensive. So, if the fee is going to go into effect in October, let's say, well, you've got the summer, and hopefully people will pay attention and do it as many times as you can through various media.
Absolutely.
Is that, yes, sir?
I agree, yes.
Yeah.
Educate them, let them know in a couple of months it is going to go up.
Well, I think, because we're not having action today, we're just just giving direction. I think education is paramount regardless of whether we increase the fee or not. Folks are going to benefit. So from a direction standpoint, I think that's a given. What I'd like to get is if we were to go to a comparison of staying at 2.5% versus 3.5% with auto pay being charged as well, what would the differential be?
I can do that.
And compare that to what our expenses are so we can really see what the impact would be.
Right.
All right, that'd be great. Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll have a few additional months of data as well, so.
I much prefer that we use informing rather than educating. I feel like educating is talking down to people. We have very smart residents here. Also, when we do our information, when we do bring out this information, maybe we can include what some of the other nearby cities are doing, so that way residents, it's easier to swallow if everybody else in the community is having that same pain point, I think. I don't know what the rest of the council thinks about that.
Yep. I think we're fine with that. Okay.
We just need one clarification. So we talked a little bit about what the fee should be. Jay, if you go back to slide 7, please.
Yes.
The council feedback on the solution, or are we saying, one forward, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Is council saying to wait before closing the missed fee there and making it balanced to where those that aren't paying the fee that by ordinance technically should be paying the fee, bringing them into the fee structure, the effective fee would still be 2.5%. Did you want to pause on this as well? And then work outreach and partnership to educate on other payment methods? And so that's where Jay does need direction still.
My thoughts are that we pull in the auto pay regardless of what direction we go in, and incorporate that, because that seems like something that should be taken care of. And then as far as what the final fee would be, we can make that decision in a couple of months.
Ladies? Y'all good?
I would defer to your expertise.
Agreed. I would need to do a little bit of research in terms of being able to extract just those credit card paying auto pay customers. It's it's been a challenge in the last couple weeks, but let me investigate and yes, I can follow that directive.
We're happy to have you back. Okay. All right, we're good on that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, thank you on that. I think you're doing the next one too?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
next up is item C5, present the fiscal year 24-25 fourth quarter financial report and fiscal year 25-26 first quarter grants update.
Yep. Thank you. Good evening again, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Jay Patel. I'm the Finance Director for the city, and today I'll be presenting our quarterly financial report for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2025. And this encompasses the periods of July of 25 through September of 25. And this item was requested by Councilmember Roger Neal. Annually, there's a slight delay in, just to provide a little bit of context, there's annually a slight delay in getting this report to council, primarily due to the various year-end adjustments that myself and my team have to do up until this point. From October and November, we're ensuring that fiscal year 25 invoices are received and charged back to the correct fiscal year. We close our books in around that Thanksgiving week of November. And from November onwards, we're making adjusting entries, accrual entries. So there's various adjustments that are made to get us to this point. This schedule does normalize going forward, as I expect to provide you all with the first quarter report here in the upcoming month. So this is usually an annual instance as we get ready for our audit period. Just before I dive into the numbers, I would like to note that these financial results are preliminary and unaudited. The finance team is still completing various year-end adjustments. You have depreciation, accruals, our various receivable adjustments, and then our lease and pension entries that are made with the help of our auditors, which will be taking place in the upcoming 4 weeks once audit begins. And those audited results will be presented to council in March as a part of the city's annual comprehensive financial report. And those numbers will vary slightly from what you see tonight. Okay, let's dive right into the general fund. Turning to the general fund, revenues and expenditures, both categories, were within 2% of our budget, which ultimately showcases a phenomenal job done by our city staff in terms of being able to conservatively budget and be effective stewards of the public's of the public's funds, essentially. Revenues overall are currently 1.17% over budgeted, and that's primarily driven by property taxes, license and permits, and various other charges for services. Court fines and interest revenues are a great contributor to that overage as well. On the other side, on the expense side, we were only 0.7% below our budgeted amounts in all 4 functional areas of the city: general government, public works, public safety, culture and rec. All of those are aligned within that 2% threshold, which is providing us with a projected ending fund balance of $24.276 million. Now, the number on the bottom, I do have to apologize to council that there was a calculation error which was made, and that number should truly be $21.7 million, which would bring our projected ending balance to approximately 100 days of expenditures as opposed to the 90 days preferred target. Therefore, we're showing a additional amount of estimated days of cash on hand at this point. But I do think it's important to note that when this presentation came before council in the previous year, approximately 1 year ago, we were showing an overage of $4 million, which reduced to approximately $1.4 million after the various audit adjustments were made. So I do think it is important to note that there's still a degree of variability that will occur with these numbers. And once we have those final numbers, I think that'd be the appropriate time to determine where those days on hand balance should be, if that number should increase, or how much of that money should be appropriated to other causes, as seen fit by the council. This slide is just a visual depiction of all of our revenues as compared to budget. The red line is our actuals, and the blue line is the budgeted amounts. And generally speaking, you'll see all of our revenue categories at or above the budgeted amounts. And even that franchise fee, I believe after we make some more accrual entries, we're going to see that surpass the budgeted amount in the once audit is presented here in the next couple months. And moving on to the expenditure side, it's a similar story. All various categories. This is broken down by expenditures by type, and you'll see all categories fall. Overall, you'll see is within that 0.7% of budget, which I mentioned earlier, and you'll see all those functional categories very close to the budgeted amount. The next slide is going to cover our enterprise funds, otherwise known as our business type funds. And that's the reason this is provided in more of an income statement format. You have your revenues, expenditures, and then your net income towards the bottom. And a very similar story as well, also attributed to our finance staff here at the city, all within the 2% target range, which 2 to 3% is our internal target, and all of those fall within line. You'll see interest earnings surpassed greatly, which have been quite difficult to project in the last couple of years with the unknowingness of the interest rate cuts that are going to be passed on through the Federal Reserve and what have you. And all expenditures are very close to the budget expenditures, leaving us right under budget by approximately 1.46%. And that will take me into our grants update for the first quarter of fiscal year 2026, which encompasses the period from October of 25 through December of 25. Unfortunately, due to the government shutdown, which ended mid to late November, there's been minimal activity in regards to closing out some of our grants. But I wanted to provide council with the update on where we stand on all these projects and what to expect this upcoming quarter. For the first grant, the Venue 1842, our economic development grant, we're in the final stages of closing that grant out. And now with the federal government opening, we expect that to be closed out within this upcoming quarter. Hoya, similar in the sense we're at the very end phases of this project, essentially considering any additional project cost and participating in the closeout process of that one as well. With the three TxDOT grants, you'll see Denton Drive and Valley View we've submitted plans to TxDOT for approval for both of those projects. And on the other hand, West Side Art Trail we're preparing a notice to issue, or preparing to issue a notice to proceed for that project, which puts us at about 45% completion for those sets of grants that we received. DART ILA the reimbursements for this grant opportunity have actually been paused upon notification that we received from DART. And to date, we received $4.28 million in reimbursements in regards to this grant. And our latest reimbursement, which was for approximately $800,000, has been paused pending results of the election, or essentially bring us in line with bring us back into a well-viewed status from DART. But currently, we have about $800,000 that in reimbursements have been paused for the city. Moving on is the Cooks Creek grant issued through the Texas Department of Emergency Management, and we recently, honestly, August of 2025, received positive note on that grant in terms of all of our expenditures should be covered. We are just waiting for final approval from FEMA. With the government shutdown, the communication has been slightly delayed, but we expect to receive positive news this quarter. Moving on to the ARPA funds that we received. All ARPA funds must be expended this year. So we're working on the final stages of the Just Center, Branch Connection, Hoya, just to ensure that we're being effective stewards of the public's wealth and making the most out of these funds that we've been given. And lastly, on this page is the pickleball grant from last year. And this one, we're just waiting on final approval from the state. We've submitted everything that's been required of us, and we're waiting for final approval to get that grant closed out at the moment. Next, the first three are going to be various Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority grants. First two are the Cadillac Converter grants. The FY24 grant, we're in the closeout process currently. And the FY25 grant, we're in the reporting periods for those. The task force grant, on the other hand, which we're working on in conjunction with Carrollton, we're working on the procurement stages of that grant at the moment. The fitness, let's see, the Blue Cross Blue Shield Fitness Park grant, we're currently finalizing design and expected to begin procurement this quarter in regards to that grant. And that brings us to our pickleball grant for this year. And now that the event's complete, we're working on submitting all the required documentation, attendance, invoices, all things required to submit to the state in order to get that grant closed out, or at least the review process started. And that brings us to the Dallas County Housing Replacement Program grant, in which we've started to begin work with Builders of Hope and expect increased activity here in the upcoming quarter related to that grant. And the final four grants we're on the very initial stages of in regards to either procurement or acceptance of those grants. The Rifle Resistant Body Armor Grant, the Libraries and Archives Commission grant, which helps, which really focuses on proficiency within our region, essentially, reading programs, summer reading, things, et cetera, things like that. Best Friends Animal Welfare Grant helps with the adoption and really helps promote the adoption within our animal shelter, and then the COPS hiring grant, really to help public safety and the hiring process involved. And a brief summary of all of what I just said in regards to grant proceeds. In total, the city's achieved $38.9 million of grants funded projects. Our cash match overall is around 10%. So these are creating an incredible benefit for our city and our taxpayers. And it's my primary job, or one of our primary functions, to ensure that we're stewarding the money well, making sure it's accounted properly, and ensuring that we stay in a beneficial status to keep these funds coming in for our city. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Jay, thank you very much. First of all, I want to give you a hand because we appreciate all the hard work going into securing these dollars for the city. So thank you and your team. Councilman Neal, you requested this?
Yes, thank you very much. This is excellent work. This is something that I had asked for, that maybe we can have report quarterly to the council as stewards, so that we can see the great job that you're doing and being good stewards of our tax revenue. I would just like to point out a couple of things, one of which is just the property taxes are higher. We've taken in an extra 200,000 or so, so property taxes are still helpful, I guess.
Absolutely.
People are concerned about that. So yeah, and I think by doing this quarterly, it helps with some of that. Last year, we had that variability in the numbers. It wasn't quite right. So I think as we go quarterly here to see these things, have a little bit more accurate information. And I might even offer to suggest that if you'd like to wait until you get some more finalized numbers on each quarter before you come to us, I'd be open to that too. But this is excellent work. I think it provides great transparency to our residents to see how we are doing with the expenditures and the grants that we're taking in. So it just helps improve that overall communication throughout the community. And I very much appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Completely agree. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Gonzalez?
Back on that slide, the bar graph, the current year budget versus actual,
Absolutely.
that charges for service, what is that? Is that like the credit card fees or?
No, so
Reynolds?
that does include rentals, just various You're going to see library fees in there. You're going to see just various city services that we're providing to the public are going to be encompassed within or just brought into the charges for services.
Okay. And you just did a really good job. I can really tell you do love numbers, don't you?
I absolutely do.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Bennett?
Hi, thank you very much. So just so I'm clear, if you will go to the 90-day fund.
Yes.
There you go. So that's 21.7, not 23.
That's accurate.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
And so, so we are approximately 2.5 over for the quarter?
2.5, 2.6.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilman Reed?
Again, fantastic job. You guys are hitting the numbers. It's showing the impact of the amount of work that you've done in planning, budgeting, et cetera. And as Councilman Neal said, it's a transparency provides transparency to our residents. Again, of not only what the numbers are, but how effective and efficient we are in utilizing those dollars, because those are big numbers. I'd like to get back to, or question on the DART money.
Absolutely. Okay.
So is this, I hesitate to use the word promised, but is this money that DART had said that they would provide us in fees, but now that the city has decided to go and have an election, they're holding back on that funds, kind of like holding it over our head?
So in the agreement, and I would have to refresh the exact verbiage in there, but it did mention the exact status of the cities that were receiving these funds, and that it was a requirement to remain in a favorable status.
I might intervene on that. Our agreement, the ILA with DART does in fact give them the authority to withhold payment. At this point, it's roughly $1.8 million if we call for an election. There's a provision in the contract that says that if the election is unsuccessful, then they may reconsider. But the contract that we have with them gives them the express authority to hold the money hostage.
Okay, I like that word, hostage. Yes, holding the money hostage, because we've decided to reassess our relationship with them. So that's an interesting point. And one of the things I have to applaud you guys on, you and the team, is with the grants, rough numbers, 9 times leverage on the amount that the city spends, approximately 10 million, and getting 10 times that in services. So that's a phenomenal job. So I wanted to draw specific attention to that as well, and thank you all.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Councilwoman Villafranca?
$38.9 million in grants, impressive. Thanks so much to you and your team. My only comment is that I'm really hesitant to start asking for quarterly updates. Like every time we ask for something, that is resources of time, of staff, and do we really need a quarterly update? Can we have a biannual update? It just seems excessive to have you report to us every 3 months.
Councilman?
Yeah, generally, these numbers are sort of rolling, so I don't know that there'd be a whole lot of changes to these numbers other than the additions of the upcoming or
Right.
the new coming quarter. So these numbers, they don't have to put effort into these. It's just the new ones that are coming. So I just like the idea of being up to date as much as possible, so.
Can it be a staff email? I mean, can it be an email?
Mayor and Council, we do provide a quarterly financial update in part of the weekly updates when finance has that. That's required. So you'll see these numbers already in a weekly update. It's just up to the council based on this current discussion topic if you would like a presentation on it. The staff is already doing the work as required and then submitting those to you all through the weekly update. So always had the information. The benefit of a presentation is you get the expert right in front of you to answer any questions you might have. So we're producing this information regardless for finance specifically.
And I would just add that it's excellent information that I appreciate you sending that to us in the council. But one of the objectives I have here is to share with our community in a little bit more transparent way, that they don't have to rely on us individual council representatives to provide them an email from staff, that we can have somewhat of an open discussion here, whether it be in study session or otherwise. I think it's helpful to keep the residents up to date, because when it comes down to budget time, there's lots of questions from the residents, and if we can offer some opportunity for them to stay on board along throughout the year, I think that's really helpful.
Any, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just agree. If the work is already being done, then I'm fine with the presentation, and like Councilman Neal said, so that our residents also know and we're able to ask the questions up front that they may also have.
Agreed. Plus, come August, there's no surprises.
I'm completely in favor of a report, but quarterly seems excessive, in my opinion. Biannually seems quite reasonable, especially since this is all basically, grants, free money that we are getting. Anyway, whatever everybody thinks is best, but I really think that that's a lot.
I'm sensing quarter. Okay. All right. Quarter. All right. Thank you, Jay.
Absolutely. I appreciate everyone's time today. Thank you.
You bet. I'm going to skip down to item C8, which is receive presentation from the Public Works Department for the 2026 City of Farmers Branch Water and Wastewater System Capital Improvement Plan. We're going to come back. We have a consultant here.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. Ray Silvarez, Director of Public Works. I have here before you the water wastewater CIP plan that we're going to go over. The prioritization list that was done with the help of Burkhoff, Hendricks, and Carter. And the consultant is here with me as well. So is some of the team from Public Works. And we're going to start out with some of the background regarding this project here. So if you can bear with me. So as Jay mentioned earlier, the utility fund is an enterprise fund, meaning that it's a self-sustainable fund. All the bills that are paid when residents pay their utility goes back into our system to make sure that we can keep our system going for the water and wastewater. And so that, it doesn't take from the general fund, it's just a self-sustainable fund. The way I like to look at it is a three-legged stool. It has the administration, the operations, and the CIP. So on the administrations, we have such things as the wholesale contracts with Dallas Water Utilities and Trinity River Authority. Dallas Water Utilities provides us with our drinking water. And whenever we do with the wastewater, we send it to Trinity River Authority, where they will treat it and then discharge it safely into the local creeks to start the whole process again. And those wholesale costs have been increasing over the last 10 years. And for the last 10 years, the city has not increased our costs to the residents. We've been absorbing that cost, and it's a very big cost to treat the water that we're getting here for drinking water and to treat the wastewater, as you can imagine. So that's one leg. The other leg is the operations. So we have men and women who work around the clock, 24/7, to make sure that the utility system is ongoing, so that you always, when you open your tap, you always have water, and when you flush that toilet, it always goes down. So we're paying for that. We're paying for salaries, equipment, tools, whatever they need to make sure if we have a water line break or some kind of sewer repair that needs to be done, it can be done immediately. And the third leg is the CIP area. This is a combination of regulatory requirements that we have to maintain some of our elevated storage tanks, our lift stations, our pump stations, and making sure that our water, wastewater, their aging infrastructure is updated. We have some aging infrastructure that is 60+ years, as you can tell by here on the screen. And so those have come to their useful life has ended, and we need to start replacing them. And what we did here with the consultant is kind of did a more methodical approach as to how we are going to approach these aging infrastructure pipes to get them listed here and make sure we get them done in priority in combination of other things that I will here shortly describe. One thing that I also want to say about so this is a reason why we increased the water wastewater rates, was to make sure that we can have the money to pay for these upgrades, these necessary requirements, the contracts. And so in order to do that, we met with the consultant last summer. We had him model what it would take to make sure that we can keep it going for the next 5 years. And one thing we also looked at was removing the sanitary sewer cap. So you were capped at 10,000 gallons. Anything beyond that, the city was just paying for whatever was going down the sewer. So we removed that to make sure, to accomplish two things. One is to kind of make you mindful, make the resident mindful of the water they're using, and to help us with conservation. So if you know North Texas, this region, it's not just a city issue, it's a region issue. We are as we continue to go forward, we're losing more water supply opportunities. We don't have too many. And so we need to start being mindful of the conservation, how we're using our water. I think there will be a paradigm shift in how we look at lawns and irrigation in the future because our water is going to start depleting over the next 10, 15 years or so, maybe even longer. But at one point it will come. So we have to, there's been big efforts by all the utilities around here to encourage residents to use water wisely, to do responsible irrigation. And so that's one thing we're trying to influence with the sewer cap removal, is to make sure that you're thinking twice, do I really need to do this to my lawn? Or is there a better alternative? And we're trying to make sure that we can get that information to our residents to water responsibly and how to water effectively. So that's one of the campaigns we're going to be working on this year. And so basically, that with those implementations in place, it's going to help us to tackle our biggest issue that we're facing. And it's our the infrastructure, the aging infrastructure. We're going to try to replace a majority of it, which is about somewhere between 70 and 80% of our aging infrastructure needs to be replaced. And that's where we hired Berkhoff, Hendricks, and Carter, the consultant, to help us take the methodical approach of how we do that. And so we came up with a 20-year plan that will have a 5-year CIP snapshot that will be replaced annually. So that's what we're going to be discussing here. So the CIP updates, we, again, I talked about the 20-year plan. We came up with a matrix of how we're going to come up with this prioritization list to make sure that we're approaching all the pipelines that need to be replaced in an equitable and fair manner, that they're well dispersed throughout the city and not just focusing on areas that we know about. So some of the sources that we provided in the matrix was we were looking at we just got our payment condition index. We were looking at our streets to make sure that they line up with which roads we're going to tear up, make sure that we're lining those up so we're not double dipping into our infrastructure replacement, and making sure we're responsible and stewarding our money well in our infrastructure as well. We were looking at pipe material, age of pipe, and the repair log of those pipes is one of the things that went into consideration here. So kind of, again, going over the scoring matrix, and I do have the consultant here that kind of put all that work together to make sure that the matrix he came up with provides us with a 20-year plan, again, prioritizing all those water, wastewaters based on the criteria that I just mentioned. So that is now completed, and what I'm bringing here before you is kind of an overview of the first year that we're going to tackle in. So we came up with for the 2026 CIP plan, we've identified the ones that need to go first. So for this one, since we're a little bit behind on where I wanted to be, I wanted to start in the fiscal year. We're trying to catch up, and so it's going to go a little bit aggressive at the beginning, but as we continue to go 2 to 3 years, hopefully those projects will start sliding to the top of the beginning of the fiscal year, and therefore not so scrunched together. In doing that as well, we also divided the first year into 3 phases to help us achieve that. So it will be done in fiscal year 26, but in 3 different phases. So this is going to be year 1. If council decides to move forward, we will have before you on the next council public professional service agreement with Berkhoff, Hendricks, and Carter to start the design of these 3 phases for fiscal year 26, with hoping to do construction towards the latter part of this year. So phase 1, we're going to, as you saw on that map originally there, we're going to stick to the west side of town, and it has 8 water CIPs and 7 wastewater CIP projects for the total cost of around roughly $5 million. Phase 2, same approach. We're going with those ones that need to be done in a prioritization manner. And you got 5 water and 5 wastewater for a total of 4.5. And phase 3, which is mainly going to focus on a larger water line, and 4 wastewater CIP projects for the tune of $3.3 million. So this is what we're hoping to get under design and get these under construction later part of this year. Here's the 5-year CIP plan. Again, our approach is to look at this in 5-year snapshots. It's an overall 20-year plan, 5-year snapshots, so we can appropriately plan financially and start tackling these projects as they need to go. And so here before you, you have from 2026 all the way down to 2030, and color-coded in different areas as to the way we're going to be tackling to replace this infrastructure. Here's the total cost of those breakdowns of each project for each fiscal year. Again, from 26 down to 2030. And from there, I'll take any questions. And again, I have the consultants and members of the Public Works team here to assist.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate it. This was requested by Councilwoman Bennett, so we will start with you.
Okay. Can we go back to, looks like slide number 4, the scoring matrix.
Okay.
Can you explain the waterline condition index ranging from 6 to 45 and the sanitary sewer line condition starting at 2 to 50? So is the 2 and the 6 the worst, or is the 45 and the 50 the worst?
So let me bring up the consultant because he helped us break this down.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. My name is Andrew Mata. I'm with Burkhoff, Hendricks, and Carter. So the higher the score gives you the higher the priority. So we classified and ranked each category, whether it's the age, whether it's the pipe material, whether it's the combination of utilizing and looking at the street CIP, and giving those the higher ranking, the more priority of score.
Okay, I don't see I see the CIP map. What I guess I'm failing to understand is the overlay between the water lines and the actual street itself.
So on the street CIP, what we did is we do have the maps. It's more of a design concept of internal infrastructure, but we did take into consideration the street CIP. We had numerous calls and meetings with the street department and public works and make sure that that street CIP based on the street condition index, that lined up with ours. We don't want to be having you do the street in 1 year and in a couple of years, we're going to be doing a water line. We also looked at depending on the condition index of the water line or the sewer line, we looked at if the city's doing a street now, is it feasible to wait maybe 10 years to do that water line and sewer line? Can the city wait on that certain project? So depending on that, where the water line condition index landed, that would tell us, yes, we can wait. Let's get our useful life, keep your street CIP now the way it is, and we can prolong the water and sewer. So yes, we did look at it both ways.
Okay, so just so the residents are clear on this, are we technically upgrading, or are we simply updating antiquated water lines and streets?
So you're doing a combination of both. Actually, you're improving your system. You're trying to meet state regulatory requirements. You have aged pipelines, cast iron, ductile iron, clay pipe that you need to simply improve. Any infrastructure, as you know, whether it's water, wastewater, paving, drainage, it needs to be rehabilitated at a certain point. And now is the time to actually get that implemented. You have a CIP. You've been doing that recently, and now this just gives you a little more justification as far as how to tackle, where to tackle, and what to do.
I had asked for that because that's not how they were doing it. So thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate your effort in doing this for us, because it is a more equitable and fair way of handling something when we have cast iron and clay asbestos water lines. Thank you.
Councilwoman Gonzalez?
So everything will be completely done in 20 years.
That is the approach we took. We took that, what the aging infrastructure was, those cast irons, those clay pipes, those asbestos pipe, and we put it in a 20-year plan to make sure that we can get it done in that amount of time.
And what we start with now, is it going to be okay in 20 years? Or we have to go back and be like, oh, well, it's been 20 years.
Well, you know, that's what the whole prioritization, to make sure that those that have failures, imminent failures that we're putting to the top of the line, like as Mayor Pro Tem put it, we need to make sure that it's an equitable and an appropriate methodically approach system to make sure that we're replacing the oldest one first, or whatever the details are that got them to that spot, so that we're not like, oh, we need to pivot and go around here.
Okay. Yeah, it's really needed, so I hope we can get this done quickly.
Thank you. Did you want to add something?
Yes, just one thing. So the city has a lot of planning tools, right? You have your land use, you have your comp plan, you have your water master plan, you have your wastewater collection plan. So this is another tool that city staff is going to be planning. So As you know, things are very dynamic. This is going to be a living instrument that we are hopefully going to continue assisting city staff every year, looking at it and making sure that every water line, every sewer line that is going to be repaired that certain year is the optimal water line to be rehabbed. So the map that you looked at 5-year, it may be different in 5 years just because of through experience, through some input from the city that may change some of the lines, but the concept is to have something that is ongoing and give you that extra tool to be able to improve your systems. Thank you.
Councilman Reed?
I think kind of in alignment with what you were saying, I know cast iron had a life expectancy of like 40 years. Clay has X amount of years. Material that's going in now, what is the life expectancy of that material?
So the PVC, the life expectancy is 100 years. So these are going to be, that's what's industry standard is the PVC. And so that's what we're going with as well.
Okay, so going back to your question is, the stuff that we're putting in now, based on life expectancy, will not have to be redone in 20 years. It's going to be
Correct. We'll have, assuming everything goes
A few
well,
decades,
A few
yeah.
decades, yes.
excellent. That's, I just want to make that clarification. Thank you.
One thing I must add, in our plan here, the one thing we did remove as we were planning with the CIP as well is we did partner up with Dallas County, and that will be coming up here shortly. I know this may ruin some plans, but we were looking to do B Street in September. So we had, when we looked at the overall system, the sewer had to be redone. So we're taking bids right now to just do the sewer only. So we'll bring that here before you. So it won't be in this list, but it will be something that we're doing immediately to make way for the county to redo B Street.
Okay. And just to make sure that we're not doing Farmers Branch Lane and all that during the fun run, because I'd hate to have to trip over anything.
Yeah, we'll be mindful of that.
Councilwoman Villafranca?
Mr. Mata, Ray, you thought of everything. Thank you so, so much for being so proactive and for making sure that everything falls in line. So I've seen more times than I would like in my lifetime where they rip everything out, do the whatever, the street, and then a year later, they're ripping it out again. So this was really, really wonderful. And I'm really glad you're starting in District 1. I know that that is like where our oldest housing stock is and the greatest needs are. And I'm thrilled that you're working with Dallas County too. This is a wonderful, wonderful partnership. Thanks for all your work. I appreciate you.
Councilman Neal?
Yeah, I too like the work that you've done here. I really appreciate the scoring mechanisms that you put in place here. I think that's really helpful to be a little bit more fair across the city as to who really needs the work done, prioritized. So I really like that aspect of it. So, and I also like the idea we might be able to get this done in 20 years. I know there's always unforeseen obstacles that pop up, but I like the aggressive idea in getting that done. So thank you very much.
All it takes is money.
That's it. That's it. All righty. Well, any other questions?
And I do want to say thank you to Mayor Pro Tem. I know she was championing this to make sure that we can get it in an appropriate amount of time window that's fair. And I think a 20-year, originally we had a 40-year plan, and I think squeezing it down to 20, working with Berkhoff and Hendricks, making that work, I think was an appropriate approach to take. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. All righty. I'm going to read us into executive session at this time, so bear with me for a moment. We have 3 items. Item D1, City Council will convene in closed executive session pursuant to Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code, personnel to deliberate the appointment, employment, compensation, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, a municipal court judge pursuant to Section 28-23 of the Farmers Branch Code of Ordinances. Item D2, the City Council will convene in closed executive session pursuant to Section 551.087 of the Texas Government Code, Economic Development, to discuss and deliberate Farmers Branch Project 26-004. And item D3, City Council will convene in closed executive session pursuant to Section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, consultation with attorney, to seek legal advice regarding matters related to Dallas Area Rapid Transit, including but not limited to correspondence, programs, funding, agreements, and any associated legal rights, obligations, or potential actions. So we will move to the city manager's office, and we will be back out here at 6 o'clock.